Blog Talk Radio.
All right, you're listening live to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder here in Atlanta. JJ, my sidekick, on the other side of Atlanta. Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, producing the show today. Filling in for our producer, Wayne, in Memphis. We've got a special guest, Fred Gerteiny. He will join us here momentarily. I can't wait to have Fred on. He should be a fabulous guest. He is from the Notoriety Sports Network here on ATL Prime Sports. You can catch all of us on Twitter at ATL Prime Sports. JJ at Get You One, myself at Corder Todd, Mark at Mancini Sports, and Wayne at RWY Jr. JJ, how are you today? It's my last show with you for until the 11th of June. I will be out.
Well, I'm doing great. We're going to miss you, but you take care, and we'll hold down the fort. So doing extremely well. Thank you, Todd.
All right. Let's go ahead and bring our guest on, Fred Gerteiny. Let's bring him on from the Notoriety Sports Network. Let's give Fred a big welcome. Fred, welcome to the show.
Mr. Mancini and my friend JJ there, thanks so much for having me on your show. I'd love being in the great South, Hot Atlanta as they call it, and pleasure to be here with you.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I don't know what to talk about first. I've been sitting here thinking about it on the top of my head, and I thought, okay, the biggest sports story between Atlanta and New York is in the National Basketball Association. It is, I still call them this today, the New York Knickerbockers playing the Atlanta Hawks. As you know, Fred, each team is a special story, so we'll stick with the NBA until we change subjects. Well, your special story, each team was, Atlanta was projected to be a borderline playoff candidate. The Knicks weren't supposed to make the playoffs. The job that Thibodeau has done has done a fantastic job, Fred. Coach Thibodeau, to me, could have got the NBA Coach of the Year, but he did not. But what a fabulous job he did. And then on the other side, Nate McMillan in Atlanta has gone, I believe, 27-11 since taking over the Atlanta Hawks. So, what gives this series? Who do you have winning it, Fred, and why?
Well, gentlemen, I think this has a chance to be a tremendous series. You got two teams that are pretty evenly matched. You got the 4 seed, the 5 seed. I think from the Knicks standpoint, obviously coming off an incredible season, one that was totally unexpected in New York City, for this team that was expected to win 22 games, and they end up winning 41. Quite a turnaround by Tibbs as he came and took over the Knickerbockers. This is going to be a great matchup, and I think from the Knicks standpoint, they've got to stop Trae Young. I mean, Trae Young is a tremendous point guard, and he makes that whole Atlanta offense go. And from the Hawks standpoint, you look at Julius Randle, who is in the MVP conversation, believe it or not, and is probably the most improved player in the league by far. It should be a good series. I mean, I think it has a chance to go the distance. Nate McMillan kind of stirred things up a couple of days ago when he got fined by the NBA $25,000 for claiming that the NBA wants the Knicks in the playoffs. And my response to that would be, if the NBA wanted the Knicks in the playoffs, where have they been the last 8 years? I mean, or more than that, where have they been the last 20 years? Because the Knicks have pretty much stunk. So if the NBA really wanted the Knicks in the playoffs, they're doing a terrible job of it. But it should be a great series. I think these are two terrific teams.
Fred, 15,000 in the Garden. 15,000. They're going from like 1,800 to 15,000. Holy smokes.
Yeah, and the Garden fits about 19,000, so that's almost capacity. I mean, we're dare I say, we are inching closer to normal. And I'll tell you something, nothing rocks in the playoffs like Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. Those Knicks fans are starving for a winner. And they're probably the greatest fans in the league because even when the Knicks stink, they sell out every game. I mean, it's remarkable that in New York City that they actually support a team that has stunk for so long. But, boy, these Knicks fans are starving for a playoff theories, and I'll tell you, the Garden is going to be turned upside down beginning Sunday night at 7 o'clock.
As it should be. You got two budding superstars and two young teams coming up, the Knicks, the Hawks, very similar teams, both of them, Fred, 41-31 records, both 25-11 at home, very similar on the road, very similar stats all the way across the board. So you're right. I think this one could go the distance. Give me an X factor in this series, and why?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think the X factor for the Knicks is going to be R.J. Barrett, because R.J. Barrett, at age 20, in his second year in the NBA, has really taken that leap to becoming almost a star player. And if he plays the way he's capable of playing, I think that could be the difference, because I think, Julius Randle and Trae Young will kind of cancel each other out. Who's going to be that second guy? I mean, the Hawks have got some great shooters. I mean, they spread the floor beautifully. I love the way they play. But I think R.J. Barrett, if R.J. Barrett can continue to progress and be that player to take it to the next level, I think R.J. Barrett could be the deciding factor in this series. But I do think it's going to go the distance.
I like your answer, Fred, but to me, Julius Randle's the one that's hurt the Hawks. He's averaged 37-12-7 in the regular season. I don't think the Hawks have the answer defensively for this guy, so they better stop Barrett. I see this series going the distance, but honestly, I see the Knickerbockers winning because I think they're the better defensive team.
Well, that's Thibodeau's calling card. He's the defensive mastermind. When he was assisting Doc Rivers with the Celtics, they won the NBA title, and it was really because of their defense. That's Thibodeau's calling card. He is a tremendous defensive coach. Offensively, very boring. They probably have about 4 offensive sets that they run. Tibbs comes from that Pat Riley, Jeff Van Gundy coaching tree, where it's all about defending and rebounding. That's what they're about. And yeah, if the Knicks defend the way they're capable of defending, that could be an X factor in itself right there. That's a great point, Mark.
You're listening to Fred Gerteiny right here on ATL Prime Sports. Fred, got one more NBA question for you, and we'll change the topic here. What do you think about this NBA play-in game? Because I was skeptical until that Lakers-Warriors game, and now I'm kind of on board with it. What are your thoughts on the NBA play-in game? Play-in series, I should say.
Well, I thought it was a great idea, and I think it's probably going to be here to stay. It certainly added a lot of excitement in that Lakers-Warriors game. That was a tremendous basketball game in which LeBron, won it with that ridiculous three-pointer late in the fourth quarter. And you had the marquee matchup with LeBron and Steph Curry. I think it generated a lot of excitement because it was almost like a Game 7. And it just it sort of added a little extra level of intrigue to the playoffs and to this tournament coming up. I like it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I didn't think I'd like it at first, but I think it's going to stay. I really liked it.
I still don't like it. I understand why you like it, and I think the NBA got lucky with it, with having the Warriors and Steph versus LeBron and the Lakers. What happens if you get a dud matchup? I don't like it. I'm pretty old school, as JJ will attest. I have my ways, and I usually don't move from them very well. I can't stand it. I didn't like it when Major League Baseball did a one-game playoff. You played 162 games for one day. No, I'm not a fan of it. Let's go ahead and switch on, guys. Let's go from the National Basketball Association to Major League Baseball. Fred, I know you're a Mets guy. JJ's a Braves guy. I'm neither. This NL East, to me, it's an overrated division. Thus far, we're a quarter of the way in. The Mets have had major injury issues. The Braves have had some with Soroka. But each lineup has been disappointed. And in your mind, Fred, who's going to win this division and why? And why? Yes.
Well, first of all, I still think on paper the Braves are the best team. I love their lineup. I love their young pitching staff. I'm sort of surprised that they're playing as poorly as they are. They're certainly hitting a lot of home runs. I mean, Acuna and Freddie Freeman, who's a Met killer. It's a great lineup from top to bottom, and they just haven't been hitting. They've just been hitting, a bunch of solo home runs, it seems. But I still think they're the best team in the division. It's only May, so I still think the Braves are going to, rise into the top of that division. They say the cream always rises to the top. I think the Mets are good. Right now, they're just decimated by injuries. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They're playing with their B team right now. And I still question the depth of their bullpen, even though they've pitched really good in the pen. I think the Phillies will certainly be in the conversation, but their bullpen is just god-awful. And they'll have to settle the Joe Girardi, Gene Segura tussle that they had on the dugout the other day. That was great. And Girardi was really ticked off as they had their little confrontation down there. It was like the old days with Reggie Jackson and Billy Martin. I loved it. But no, I still think the Braves are going to end up winning that division. That's just me. I don't know how you guys feel.
Wow, I'm actually I'm shocked. I'm a Braves fan. A lot of people still feel like the Braves are going to win this division. I'm very skeptical with all the injuries across Major League Baseball. I think it has something to do with playing a short season, then followed by a full season of 162. So I'm shocked you said the Braves. I'm kind of leaning towards the Mets and their starting pitching. I'm very surprised, Fred. But the Braves definitely have the lineup to do it. If they start hitting, they're leading the league in exit velocity and hard hit balls. So those have to start dropping at some point. So I see your point there, but I'm going with pitching in the Mets. I think the Mets may just take this division, scoring 3-4 runs a game and holding opponents under that.
Wow, well, I've got you with the Mets, Mr. Pessimistic in Atlanta. I've got you in New York picking the Braves. That leaves me. I'm going to stick with my original prediction because we're only a quarter of the way in. I'm thinking Atlanta's going to win it because the players on the back of the baseball card are going to play like they normally do. Even though Soroka's missing, I still think the big three are going to step up, Ian Anderson and company for Atlanta, and I think they're going to hit just enough to take this thing. They are, 6-7 out in the loss column, which is a concern. But if the Mets do get healthy and they do get the lead, Fred, with Jacob deGrom, there's no better. That would be a concern. Or can the Nationals turn the clock back? Started off 19-31 in 2019, and Scherzer and company won the whole thing. So I think this thing is wide open, but I'll still stick with Atlanta. How about you, Fred? Any comments to what JJ and I said?
Well, listen, I agree the Mets starting pitching is pretty good, and obviously Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball. I don't think we've seen anything like him in recent years where a 33-year-old is actually gaining in velocity as he gets older. And his control is spectacular for a guy that throws 100. He's really a throwback. He's got the pitcher's build. He's long and lean. Now he does have a bit of an injury issue at the moment where that left side kind of froze up on him. It's really scary there for any Met fan when Jacob deGrom is taken out of the game and you hear the term MRI. But apparently he's okay. Apparently he's going to make his next start. So, listen, the Mets starting pitching is solid, and we'll see what happens. I still like the Braves lineup. I picked the Braves at the beginning of the season, so I'm going to stick with the Braves.
Okay, you know what? We got two more baseball questions, then we're going to move on to the National Football League. You're listening to Fred Gerteiny of the North Ireland Sports Network here on ATL Prime Sports with JJ and TC. Fred, all the no-hitters in baseball. We had two this week, two consecutive ones. Corey Kluber, Spencer Turnbull of Detroit first, and then we had Corey Kluber of the Yankees. And when I was watching the Spencer Turnbull one, I thought I was watching For the Love of the Game again with Kevin Costner, and company because Spencer Turnbull said, clear the mechanism. And I'm like, he talked about it after the game that he got on the mound and did a Kevin Costner quote, clear the mechanism. Now, of course, this is funny. Can the Tigers as a team clear the mechanism and get back the race? I don't think so, but, hey, maybe that's their rallying cry is clear the mechanism. And second of all the no-hitters in baseball, and third of all the strikeouts in baseball, it is ridiculous. I think players need to change their mentality. I'm not going to pick on Freddie Freeman, but I'll use him as an example. Nobody on and nobody out, and they got the shift. Lay the bunt down, get on base. That would change the dynamic of the inning. What do you think of all that?
Well, the game is so different now. Everything is hit the ball out of the ballpark. It's, you know, there's no situational baseball anymore. There's no hitting behind the runner. Everybody complains about the shift. Well, we'll hit the ball the other way, for crying out loud. But everybody's just trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Everything, like you say, is launch angle and all these sabermetric stats. Is these 25-year-old Harvard grads are running all the baseball teams with their computer printouts, and you're seeing so many no-hitters now because all these guys are doing is they're trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. So what do we have, 6 no-hitters already in the first 6 weeks of the season? It's outrageous. I hate it. I want to go back to the old days where we actually played baseball, I don't know what this is, what they're playing today, fellas.
Hey, I'm right there with you, Fred. You're listening to Fred Gerteiny right here on ATL Prime Sports. 2-time Emmy-nominated Fred Gerteiny right here. I'm with you. I don't like the shift. I think they should make a rule where you have to sacrifice an outfielder. Something to break away the shift. And I'll give you a little background on that. Look, we'll take Freddie Freeman, for example. He's put 64 balls into play outside of his obvious hits, the base on balls and the Ks. He's put 64 balls in play that were resulted in outs. You take away the shift, he's probably batting close to 300, if not well over it. Half those balls are probably falling in for hits because he's hitting the ball so hard. But we'll switch over to my question, Fred, and I'll say this. What do you think about the DH in the National League? I don't want to see it come over. The Braves have 2 pitchers who are actually hitting well, and Oscar Inoue and Max Fried, both their averages above 350. What are your thoughts on the DH in the National League?
Well, guys, I'm an old National League guy. I love, and I just went into my monologue there about complaining about baseball the way it used to be played. I believe that everybody should hit, I say 9 guys up, 9 guys hit. I don't like the DH, but think about this, guys. The National League is the only league in the country that still has pitcher hitting. I mean, even at the high school level, they got a DH.
Correct.
So every minor league level has the DH. So the National League is kind of, the last of the Mohican, shall we say. I don't like it. I mean, I love the strategy. I love, bunting the runner over. I love it when you get a great hitting pitcher like a Jacob deGrom, who's hitting like 667 right now. I think that's great. I remember guys like Rick Rhoden, guys pitchers who could hit the baseball. I love it. I like the extra dynamic that the pitcher hitting adds. To each his own. I know you talk to an American League guy, and they'll tell you, they love the DH. It depends. It's personal preference. I prefer 9 up, 9 guys, everybody hitting. That's just me.
Hey, I agree with you, Fred. I like the bat 9, play 9 mentality. And, hey, you put the DH in the National League, you're taking away Bartolo Colon's home run. And we all love that.
One of the great moments in baseball history, let me tell you. That was classic.
Classic.
No doubt, guys. I like the DH too. That's the 3 of us. There's no question about it. The double switch, all the strategy involved in the game. What does the manager do? Does he pitch hit? Does he keep the pitcher in? The pitcher's pitched 3 good innings. He's in middle relief. Maybe the starter didn't go. I like all the strategy involved, and if you take the DH in the NL, it's the same as the AL, and the strategy is gone. Let's switch to another subject. Let's go over to the National Football League. Big news here in Atlanta, and to me, call me crazy, but it's in every sports newspaper, and it's even in your neck of the woods there, Fred, the New York Post. The Julio Jones trade rumors, they're heating up amid the Falcons' cap crunch. I actually think this thing could get done. Your thoughts?
Well, I love Julio Jones. I mean, Julio Jones is, I know he's had a lot of injury issues, and I'm sure he's they would miss him down in Atlanta because he's an absolute stud. I don't understand why the Falcons, if you're going to keep Matty Ice, you want him to have all the weapons necessary. Now, I know they picked the stud tight end out of Florida State, who's really a wide receiver, which I think was a great pick. But if you have Julio Jones on the other side.
Out of Florida, yes.
Yeah, out of Florida, pardon me. So if you have Julio Jones on the other side, that's a dynamic offense for first-year head coach Arthur Smith to play with. I don't understand why they want to trade Julio. I mean, I just don't get it. We all know that in the NFL today, it's all about playmakers. You got to have guys to make plays, and having guys on the outside with speed, that's what it's all about. And if you're going to commit to Matty Ice, I would think you'd want to have as many weapons around him as possible. And I guess the flip side of that is maybe you trade Julio while his value is still high, and you try to get a king's ransom for him. But, I could see it happening. I could see Julio ended up maybe in jet green.
Well, JJ and I talked about this. It's always about the money. Show me the money. That's our motto. And Fred, JJ and I, his cap number, goes way down after June 1st. And JJ and I have said this many times. If he's not on the field and he's injured half the time, he's not doing him any good. You might have to trade him now while the going's good. Correct, JJ?
Yeah, that is the unfortunate truth. Julio Jones has had turf toe injuries. He's had ankle, calf injuries, hamstring injuries over the years. You're right, TC. That is a harmful truth to the Atlanta Falcons and that offense. But I'm with Fred. I really think the Falcons should hold on to Julio, try and figure out other ways to free up cap space, because Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, with Cordell Patterson and Mike Davis in the backfield, whoever becomes the starting running back there, maybe they add to it in free agency. You got a pretty good, solid offensive foundation for again, the first-year head coach who loves to use the tight end. So I'm there. I'm keeping Julio Jones, but you're right. That is the truth. Julio Jones is hurt. What can you get for him? What does he provide in the salary cap? And that is around $11 million in freed up space, and that would basically sign your rookie class. So
you know what, guys? I'm against you here. I'm against you here. I think if you can trade him. I know it's a shocker. You're keeping Matt Ryan, but you can find another wide receiver. I know he's not as good as Julio, but at least he can stay on the field, and you already drafted Pitts. So, I mean, I get it. I get why they're doing it. They're in a major cap crunch, and this is the easiest way they can do it, by getting the most for Julio Jones. Now, we got about 5.5 minutes left here in the show here on ATL Prime Sports. We'll go one more NFL topic, and we'll go to the National Hockey League. This one happened this week. The media went berserk on Twitter, on social media, and everywhere, because Tim Tebow, Fred, was signed by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I personally think this is a wonderful story. I know he hasn't played football in 8 years. He's a big guy. I think it would be poetic if Trevor Lawrence's first touchdown pass was a 1-yarder to Tim Tebow in the end zone.
Well, I'll tell you what, TC, and I love Tim Tebow. Who doesn't love Tim Tebow? As a person, who doesn't love this man? He's a godly man. He does so much off the field. And I can understand from Urban Meyer's standpoint that he wants to sort of repay this guy who did so much for him in his career. But my question is from a football standpoint. You know, you're talking about a 33-year-old guy who is going to be playing a position he's never played before. And from a football standpoint, are you taking a roster spot away from a 21-year-old tight end who might be a part of your future? So I don't understand it from the football aspect of it, but I understand it from an emotional standpoint. And certainly Tim Tebow is going to sell some tickets and garner a lot of interest for the Jacksonville Jaguars, probably sell a lot of tickets and get their ratings up. But I question if he's even going to make the team in training camp. I mean, it's going to be a zoo with the media covering it. But I just think from a football standpoint, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I hope I'm wrong because I think Tim Tebow's about as fine a human being as there's ever been on God's green earth. But I just don't see it, fellas.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tebow, if he makes the team, he'll be a locker room, special teams guy, and that's about it. But he can play football, former first-round draft pick. He's won a playoff game at the quarterback position. We'll see what he can do as a tight end. I'll flip it over to the Green Bay Packers drama and Aaron Rodgers. I'll put the question like this. We all know what's going on. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is a Green Bay Packer this fall?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I think this is a marriage that is definitely on the rocks. Aaron Rodgers is a tremendous quarterback, taking nothing away from him, but he is such a diva. I mean, let's face it. He's never happy, and he's a pain in the neck to handle. We've all seen it before. Star athletes can get their way out from a team if they want to. They can force their way out. We see it all the time, especially in the NBA. And I think it's 50-50. But if Aaron Rodgers is going to be unhappy, which is, you know, Aaron Rodgers most of the time, I think you're better off getting a king's ransom for him now. You know, send him to Denver, send him to Las Vegas, wherever. And, you know, I think you got to move on. He's a total diva. He always has been, you know, but, hey, it's going to be a soap opera.
Aaron Rodgers, it could be. You never know.
He'd probably be perfect in Vegas.
You know what? With Aaron Rodgers, maybe he's doing Jeopardy. We got about 3 minutes left in the show, Fred. I've got to go over to the National Hockey League. I got to talk about last night's Carey Price masterpiece for the Canadians. As they say in Canada, les Canadiens. What a masterpiece against Toronto. They beat them 2-1. They're the biggest underdog of all the series in the NHL, of all the playoff series in the first round, against Toronto, who's had so many disappointments for so many years, since 1967 to be exact. And now here's Montreal with the most cups in the NHL. They haven't had one since would have been, I believe, 93 was their last cup win. So they have. Can Montreal beat Toronto with a hot Carey Price and disappoint the folks again in Ontario?
I don't think there's any question they can. You know, the Toronto Raptors, look at this, the Raptors. The Maple Leafs have been such a disappointment for so many years. I mean, they're such a storied franchise, and they just can't seem to get over the hump. And, boy, what an insult it'll be if the Canadians beat them. But, no, I can definitely see that. I think the Habs, les habitants, as they say up there in Montreal, I think the Canadians are going to end up winning this series. It's you can see it, the handwriting on the wall. The Maple Leafs are just snake bit. That's what I say.
Real quick, we got 2 minutes left. We'll switch over to the other series. I'm going to pick Montreal in the upset, too. I'm going to say in 7. We got to go to the brawl last night between the Islanders. We got about a minute left. The Islanders and the Penguins. Tell me very briefly about that for about 25 seconds.
I think the Islanders win that series. I think they're going to come back and win it. The Penguins, you know, got the history with all the cups. That's a great rivalry that's developed between those two teams. But I like the Islanders to make a comeback here. I think it's going to go 7. Yeah, I'm going Islanders over the Pens here.
All right, I've got Pittsburgh to win that series, but we shall see. I bet it goes at 7. I do think that. Guys, that's the end of the show. Fred, thank you so much for coming on. You do a great job with the Notoriety Sports Network. You're an Emmy-nominated sports anchor / reporter. You've had an excellent broadcasting career, and I really appreciate your thoughts and everything on giving up your time to come on our show today. Guys, you can catch the replay on ATL Prime Sports on Corder Todd, on JJ Get You One, on Mancini Sports, or for Wayne, RWY Jr. in Memphis. For Todd Corder in Atlanta, for JJ on the other side of the ATL, for Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, and Fred for in Greater New York, have a great week, everybody, and enjoy your Memorial Day weekend next weekend. Have a great day, everyone.
Get you one.